So think about this for a second. The skills you have for your job right now, they could be totally obsolete in just a few years. So how in the world do you keep up? Well, today, we're going to dive into a really powerful strategy for mastering hard skills and doing it fast. It's called Ultralearning, and it's basically a framework for getting exceptional at, well, pretty much anything.
It all kicked off with this kind of wild question from the author, Scott Young. See, he just finished a business degree, but he realized his real passion was computer science. But the thought of another 4 years of school and just mountains of debt, it made him wonder, is there a way to get a world-class education, but on your own, without that massive price tag?
And that one question, it sparked something called the MIT Challenge. Scott's goal was insane: complete MIT's entire 4-year computer science curriculum in just 12 months. He used all their free online materials, he took the same final exams, he did the same projects, and guess what? He actually did it. It was this incredible proof that if you have the right strategy, you can achieve some pretty extraordinary things all on your own.
Now, Scott's story is more than just impressive. It really shines a light on a dilemma that, honestly, a lot of us are facing. The world is demanding new skills faster than ever, but our old-school ways of learning, they're often just too slow and way too expensive to keep up.
I mean, just think about it, right? Traditional education, it's slow, it's structured, and it costs a fortune. But in the real world, skills become obsolete so fast. What's valuable today might not be in a few years. So you've got this huge gap between the need for continuous, practical learning and this old theoretical model. We really need a new, more agile way to learn.
And that's exactly where this new approach comes in. See, what Scott Young did wasn't just some crazy stunt. He actually reverse-engineered his own success into a strategy that anyone can follow.
He calls it ultra-learning. So what does that actually mean? Let's break it down. First, self-directed. That just means you're in the driver's seat. You pick what you learn, you pick how you learn it. And second, intense. This is key. This is not passive learning, just watching a few videos. It's a focused, almost aggressive pursuit of that skill.
Okay, so why should you care? Why is this so important? Well, because the benefits are huge. You can literally accelerate your career by picking up in-demand skills super fast. Or, finally find that deep satisfaction from mastering a new language or learning to play an instrument. At the end of the day, it's all about adapting to a world that's constantly changing and giving yourself a real competitive edge.
So the book itself lays out 9 different principles, but to make it super easy to digest, we've organized the core strategy into 3 simple phases. Think of this as your basic toolkit for becoming an ultralearner. It's a pretty simple flow. First, you prepare, which is all about drawing your map. Then you practice by just going straight ahead. And finally, you perfect by digging really deep to build that true understanding. So let's take a look at one key principle from each of these phases. All right, let's jump into phase 1, prepare. The absolute core principle here is something called metalearning. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly profound. Basically, before you even start learning your subject, you have to first learn how to learn that subject. You know that famous quote from Isaac Newton, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." Well, that perfectly captures the spirit of metalearning. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Your first job is to find out how other people have successfully learned this skill, and then you create your own roadmap based on what actually worked for them. So your metalearning map needs to answer 3 big questions. First up, why? Get clear on your motivation. Are you doing this for a new job, or is it just for you? Second, what? You got to break the skill down into the key concepts, the facts, the actual procedures. And third, how? This is where you research the best books, courses, and methods. A great rule of thumb is to spend about 10% of your total learning time just on this research phase.
Okay, once you've got your map, it's time for phase 2, practice. The big guiding principle here is directness. And this is so simple, but so many people get it wrong. It just means learning by doing the actual thing you want to get good at in the real environment where you'll be using that skill.
Leonardo da Vinci had a great way of putting it. He who can go to the fountain does not go to the water jar. Think about that. Why would you learn from a water jar? Like a textbook that's totally removed from reality? When you can go straight to the fountain of actual practice. If you want to learn a language, you have to start speaking it. If you want to code, you need to start building things. Simple as that.
But here's the thing. Direct practice on its own isn't always enough. Sooner or later, you're going to hit a bottleneck, that one weak link in the chain that holds you back, and that's where the next principle comes in, the drill. The idea is to isolate that single weakest point and just attack it relentlessly.
Benjamin Franklin is the perfect case study for this. He wanted to get better at persuasive writing, so he came up with this brilliant drill. He'd read an article, put it away, and then try to reconstruct the entire argument from memory using his own words. See what he did there? He isolated the specific skill he wanted to improve, structuring an argument, and that allowed him to completely master it.
All right, and that brings us to our final phase, phase 3, perfect. This is where you go beyond just surface-level knowledge. We're talking about the difference between just memorizing facts and developing a deep, intuitive understanding, where you don't just know it, you truly get it.
But there's a huge trap here. It's something the physicist Richard Feynman warned about all the time. He called it the illusion of understanding. You know that feeling, right? You read a chapter in a book, you're nodding along, everything makes sense, but then later, you find you can't actually explain the concept to someone else. Like Feynman said, you're the easiest person to fool.
So, how do you make sure you're not fooling yourself? Well, Feynman developed this incredibly simple but powerful technique. Here's how it works. Step 1. Take the concept and try to explain it in really simple terms, like you're teaching it to a kid. Step 2. The moment you get stuck or have to use complicated jargon, boom, you've just found a gap in your knowledge. Step 3. Go back to your books or videos to fill that gap. And finally, Step 4, just repeat the process until you can explain the whole idea smoothly and simply. It's genius.
Okay, so we've walked through the 3 phases: prepare, practice, and perfect. Now, let's get down to business. How do you actually launch your very first Ultralearning project? Let's make this real. It really just boils down to 5 steps. 1. Research. Go build that Metalearning map. 2. Schedule. Seriously, put time on your calendar. If it's not scheduled, it's not going to happen. 3. Execute. Stick to your plan, but don't be afraid to be flexible. 4. Review. Look back and be honest about what went well and what didn't. And finally, step 5. Decide. What's next for this skill? Are you going to maintain it, maybe relearn it later, or are you going to push for true mastery? Look, Ultralearning isn't about being some kind of innate genius. It's a mindset. It's a toolkit that absolutely anyone can use to take control of their own learning. It's a strategy that can unlock new careers, new hobbies, and a way deeper sense of what you're actually capable of. So the only real question left is, what are you going to learn? Because the beginning is always today.